My name is Olivia, and I want to tell you about the day I lost everything. Not just money, not just a house. I lost my father, my home, my identity, everything I had ever known. In the space of 1 week, I went from being the daughter of one of the most respected men I have ever known to standing alone in an airport with one suitcase and $40 in my pocket. But this is not just a story about losing everything. This is a story about what happens when the people who destroyed you finally meet the people who love you. And trust me, that moment was worth every single painful second that came before it. But to understand that moment, we need to go back to where everything began. My father's name was Noah. If you met him on the street, you would never guess what he was worth. He wore simple clothes. He remembered the name of every person who worked for him. He tipped generously and apologized when he was wrong. He was the kind of man the world needs more of. My mother passed away when I was 4 years old. I have pictures of her, hundreds of them. My father kept albums everywhere, on shelves, on his desk, beside his bed. He always told me I looked just like her. Same eyes, same way of tilting my head when I was thinking, same laugh. I used to stand in front of her photographs and try to find myself in her face. I always could. So it was just Dad and me for a long time. And honestly, it was enough. More than enough. He built his companies slowly and carefully. Import and export. Manufacturing, real estate. Not flashy, just solid. The kind of wealth that takes 20 years to build and looks effortless from the outside. When I turned 18, he sat me down and said, "Olivia, everything I built for you. When I am gone, it is yours. Every single piece of it." I told him to stop talking like that. He just smiled. 5 years later, I was studying business management at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. 2 years into my degree, living in student accommodation that felt nothing like home, but was slowly becoming one anyway. That was where I met James. James was not what I expected. He showed up to our first seminar in a plain white t-shirt and worn jeans. He sat next to me and borrowed a pen because he had forgotten his. He returned it after class with a small thank you note folded around it. I still have that note. He was a little quiet at first, the kind of quiet that isn't shyness, more like someone who listens more than he speaks and means it. He never filled silence just to fill it. We became friends slowly. Study sessions that turned into long walks that turned into late-night conversations about everything: family, dreams, fear, what we wanted our lives to look like. I noticed early on that whenever money came up in conversation, even casually, something shifted in his expression. Not embarrassment exactly, more like discomfort. Like it was a subject he didn't want to be near. So I never pushed it. We never talked about money. Not once in those early months. And honestly, it didn't matter. What mattered was that he listened. Really listened. The kind of listening that makes you feel like what you are saying is the most important thing in the room. After 6 months, without either of us really deciding it, we were together. And after that, everything became we. Movies, theater, long camping weekends where we got completely lost and laughed about it. Early mornings in the library with bad coffee and too many notes. We never broke each other's trust. Not once. That was something I knew without having to think about it. The way you know certain things about certain people without needing proof. I was completely, entirely in love with him. And I had no idea who he really was. But for that story, we need to go back a little further, to where everything that was about to happen actually began. For years after my mother passed, it was just Dad and me against the world. I always wanted a sister. When I was young, I used to ask my father about it. Once, I was maybe 9 or 10, I even asked him if we could adopt one. He laughed and said I was too young to be asking questions like that. But he said it warmly, the way he said most things. Then 5 years ago, my father met Charlotte. She was 45, elegant, poised. She seemed to know instinctively how to be whatever a room needed her to be. When I first met her, she was warm toward me, genuinely interested, asking the right questions, remembering what I said. My father looked at her the way I imagine he once looked at my mother, and I thought, maybe this is what happiness looks like for him now. Maybe he deserves this. They married after a year, and Charlotte came with a daughter, Emma, 23 years old, and for the first time in my life, I had a sister. I was so happy about that. I really was. But Emma was quiet in a way that was different from James's quiet. Where James's silence felt like presence, Emma's felt like absence. Like she was in the room but choosing not to be. We didn't speak much. I tried, more than once, but she always found a reason to be somewhere else. One-word answers that closed conversations rather than opened them. I used to wonder what I had done, what I had said or not said that made her unwilling to meet me halfway. I never found a reason that made sense. Emma had a boyfriend, Liam, 24, warm-faced, genuinely kind. One of those people whose goodness you feel immediately without needing evidence of it. He and I had actually been childhood friends, same neighborhood, same schools, different paths over the years. I thought, maybe things will be okay. Maybe this blended, strange new family will find its shape over time. I still believed that 2 weeks ago. It was just 2 weeks ago that I had been home last, Charlotte's birthday. My father had asked me to come. He always wanted everyone together for occasions like that. So I flew back. 4 days at home. A birthday dinner that was pleasant on the surface and slightly awkward underneath. The way family gatherings often are when the family is still finding its shape. My father seemed well, happy even. We had a long breakfast together on my last morning, just the two of us, the way it used to be. He talked about the companies, asked about university, asked about James with that particular smile, the kind fathers get when they know something matters to their daughter. I flew back to Georgetown feeling settled, grateful even. 2 weeks later, everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon in October. James and I were walking through the university park. The leaves were turning. He was telling me something. I was only half listening, distracted by the light through the trees, thinking that moments like this one were the ones worth keeping. My phone lit up. I saw the name on the screen and stopped walking. It was Stephen, my father's personal butler, a man who had worked for our family for 11 years, a man who had never once called my personal number. I answered immediately. Stephen's voice was controlled in the way that people's voices get when they are holding something difficult very carefully. He said, "Miss Olivia, I am so sorry to tell you this." And then he told me. My father had been in an accident. He had been rushed to hospital. He had not survived. I don't remember the next few minutes clearly. I remember James's face when he realized something was wrong. I remember him taking the phone from my hand. I remember sitting on the ground, just sitting, on the path, not caring, completely unable to process what my brain had just received. My father was gone. James held me without saying anything. He understood, better than almost anyone, that there are moments when words are entirely the wrong tool. We rushed straight to the airport. He stayed with me through every minute of it. Check-in, security, the long wait at the gate. He sat beside me and held my hand and didn't try to fix something that couldn't be fixed. When they called my flight, he walked me to the gate. He waited until I was on the plane, and then he let me go. I arrived home to a house that felt different before I even walked through the door. The staff who had worked for my father for years would not meet my eyes. Stephen greeted me at the entrance, and I could see in his face that there was more, much more, that he wanted to say and couldn't. Charlotte met me in the hallway, dressed in black, expression perfectly calibrated, grief without vulnerability, sorrow without weakness. She embraced me, and over her shoulder, I noticed Emma watching from the stairs with an expression I couldn't immediately name. Over the next 48 hours, I began to understand what had happened. My father's will, the one he had spoken to me about when I was 18, the one that left everything to me, had been changed 3 weeks before his death. The new will left the companies, the properties, the assets, everything to Charlotte as primary beneficiary, Emma as secondary. My name appeared once, a small monthly allowance that managed to feel like an insult while appearing generous. I hired a lawyer, the only one I could reach without access to my own money yet. He came back 2 days later. The will was legal, properly witnessed, properly filed. There was nothing to be done. Charlotte and Emma moved fast. Bank accounts I had access to, closed. The house I had grown up in, being redecorated within the week. Staff who had worked for my father for decades, gone in days. And then Charlotte told me directly, without raising her voice, that I was no longer welcome there. That I should leave. That if I caused problems, she would make things very difficult for me. Emma stood behind her mother and said nothing. I packed what I could carry. 1 suitcase. Liam found me outside that evening, sitting on the garden wall. He sat next to me without being asked. He didn't say much, but there was something in his face that I couldn't quite identify. Something heavier than grief. Something I filed away without understanding yet. I flew back to America the next morning. $40, 1 suitcase, a return ticket bought before any of this happened, and nothing else. Back in Georgetown, James was waiting. He had driven to meet me. No grand gesture, just him, present, exactly where I needed him. In the weeks that followed, as I tried to understand how to build a life from nothing, I began to notice things. Opportunities that appeared with strange timing, introductions that seemed almost too well placed, doors that should have been closed that somehow weren't. I put it down to hard work, to my father's name still carrying weight in certain circles. I didn't know yet that every single one of those doors had been opened by James, quietly, carefully, without ever once mentioning it. 4 years passed. James was there for every single one of them. Not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently. Present. The same person every morning, every difficult evening, every moment when I thought I had hit a wall and couldn't find a way through it. He never took credit for anything, never said, "I helped with that," or "that was me." He would listen when I told him about a new opportunity, with genuine happiness, the kind that is clearly real because it looks nothing like performance. By the end of 4 years, I had rebuilt. A business of my own, real contacts, stability, a life in America that was genuinely mine, earned, solid, something I understood the value of because I had started with nothing. Charlotte and Emma had not been idle either. They had grown more powerful, more protected, more difficult to reach. But something had been building in me quietly for 4 years. I was going home. I was going to fight for what my father built. I told James. He didn't try to talk me out of it, didn't list the reasons it was complicated or dangerous or unlikely to work. He just said, "Then we go together." The evening before we planned to leave, we were in the apartment going through everything we knew when there was a knock at the door. James answered it. A young man stood in the doorway, pale, exhausted in a way that went beyond tiredness, the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying something heavy for a very long time. His hands were unsteady. James greeted him the way James greeted everyone, warmly, politely, without assumption. The young man asked if Olivia was there. I came from the back room. When I saw his face, I stopped completely. It was Liam. I had not seen him since that evening on the garden wall 4 years ago. He looked different. Not older exactly, more worn, like someone who had not slept properly in a very long time and had stopped expecting to. He came inside. James made tea and settled quietly in the corner, present but not intruding, listening without making anyone aware of it. Liam and I talked for hours. He told me about the 4 years, about watching Charlotte and Emma spend everything my father had built, about Emma's transformation after the money arrived, the cruelty that had always been underneath becoming something openly worn, about Emma ending their relationship 2 months after I left. She had decided he wasn't suitable anymore. And then, slowly, stopping and starting, losing his words several times and finding them again, Liam told me what he had been carrying for 4 years. My father had not died in an accident. He had been poisoned. Charlotte had been introducing small amounts of a substance into his food and drink over several months, gradually, carefully, in amounts designed to be undetectable without specifically looking for them. The death had been ruled natural, a cardiac event. A man of 50 with a demanding career and no obvious warning signs. Nobody had looked further. Liam had overheard Charlotte and Emma speaking 2 weeks before my father died. He hadn't understood fully what he was hearing at the time. By the time the understanding arrived, my father was gone, and Emma had made clear that silence was the only safe option for him. He had been silent for 4 years. When he finished speaking, the room was completely still. I could not find words. My father had not just been taken from me. He had been murdered. After the silence had stretched as long as it needed to, James stood up. He took his phone from his pocket and made a call. Short, 3 sentences. Then he ended it and looked at me. And he told me everything. The company, the scale of it, the people who answered when he called, at any hour, without question. He told me about his father, about inheriting something he had never asked for and never quite known what to do with, about choosing to live as he actually wanted to live, rather than as the wealth suggested he should. He told me he had never said anything because he needed to know, needed to be completely certain that what we had was real, that I was with him for him, not for what surrounded him. He said, "I should have told you sooner. I know that." The room was quiet for a moment, and then Liam, quietly, carefully, said something that stopped us both. He said he had always wondered. In 4 years of watching Olivia rebuild from nothing, the timing of certain things had never quite made sense to him. Doors that opened, connections that appeared. He looked at James and asked, "That was you, wasn't it?" It wasn't really a question. James looked at him for a moment. Then he said, "Yes." I sat with that. 4 years of open doors and placed opportunities, and not one word of credit taken. 4 years of someone who had everything, choosing to give quietly and invisibly, and never once making me feel like I owed him anything in return. The anger I might have felt, it came and it passed quickly, because I understood what it meant. I looked at James. I looked at Liam. And I said, "We need a plan." They worked through the night. James made calls. People answered immediately, at any hour, without hesitation. That alone told me everything his words had only begun to explain. By the following evening, everything was ready. Legal teams, forensic accountants who specialized in exactly this kind of estate fraud, a toxicology expert who had reviewed the case notes and confirmed the signs were there, hidden carefully, but there, for anyone who knew what to look for. 12 journalists from publications that reached every corner of the country, police detectives who had been fully briefed and had enough to act. Liam had agreed to speak, publicly, on record, in front of whoever needed to hear it. And 50 of James's people, quiet, professional, utterly certain of what they were there to do. We were going home. Charlotte and Emma did not expect us. That was entirely intentional. We arrived on a Thursday morning. James, Liam, me. Just the three of us walking to the front door of the house I had grown up in. Charlotte answered. Her expression moved through surprise, then irritation, then something that settled into contempt. Emma appeared almost immediately. When she saw Liam, her face went cold. They let us in, barely. The insults came quickly. Emma looked at James, plain clothes, nothing visible, and made her assessment in seconds. Her words were cutting. Her mother added to them. The conclusion was clear. If James was with me and I had arrived with nothing 4 years ago, then James must be no one worth worrying about. James listened. He did not respond. He let them finish completely, and then, quietly, he made a phone call. 10 seconds later, the front door opened, and through it came everyone. 50 of James's people first, then the journalists, cameras, microphones, recorders running, then police, plainclothes and uniform both. The room filled in under a minute. Charlotte and Emma stood in the center of it. For the first time since I had known them, they had no move to make. Emma looked at Liam. Liam looked at me. I nodded. And Liam told the truth. All of it. Every detail. On camera. In front of 12 journalists and a room full of witnesses, and 2 detectives who were already recording everything. Charlotte tried to interrupt. She was heard and not able to stop what was happening. Emma said nothing after the first few minutes. She stood and watched her world come apart. The detectives moved when Liam finished. Charlotte and Emma were removed from the house within the hour. The legal process took 8 months. The forensic evidence, combined with Liam's testimony and the financial records James's team had compiled, was more than sufficient. Charlotte and Emma were convicted. Poisoning, fraud, falsification of legal documents. Neither of them would be leaving prison for a very long time. Everything my father had built was returned. I stood in my father's study on the day the transfer was completed, and I stayed there for a long time, just standing, looking at his books, his desk, the photographs of my mother he had kept on the shelf. My father had told me when I was 18 that everything he built was for me. He was right. It just took a different path to get there than either of us expected. James stood in the doorway, still in plain clothes, still exactly himself. Liam was there too, quieter than I had ever known him, but lighter. The way people look when something that has been pressing on them for years is finally gone. 1 year later, James and I got married. Small ceremony. The people who mattered. Liam was best man. He gave a speech that made everyone cry, including James, which I had never seen before and which I will treasure for the rest of my life. My father used to say, "The truth doesn't need to hurry. It always arrives." He was right about that too. If you have ever had something taken from you by people who counted on you being too broken to fight back, I want to tell you something. They count on your silence. They count on your exhaustion. They count on you having nobody in your corner. Make sure they are wrong about all 3. This is Dark Confessions. This was Olivia's story. But next time, it can be yours.